every day of the week, not just when you're sitting like this. There's many fantasies about meditation, okay? Many misconceptions. I mean, the world talks about mindfulness, and anybody can make up their own story, that's okay. But if you're going to talk about Buddhist meditation, then don't just think that, don't make up your own view. That's very kind of rude, you know? So concentration, there's two kinds of meditation. Millions of techniques, but two main modes of using your mind. And the one that's classically known as meditation is, as I said, the one that's vaguely known as mindfulness. And there are 57 varieties of it. And everybody can make their own up, as long as you don't say it's Buddhist. You can use it from Buddhism, but people make up their own and say it's Buddhist. So that's very rude, you know? Be accurate. So the first mode of meditation, as I'm called, technically speaking, is called, it's known in Sanskrit as shamatha, which means literally calm abiding. You abide in calm, I mean, something like that. But it's actually, I think, a more vital title for it, a more vital name, which is what it is a single-pointed concentration. That's the word samadhi in Sanskrit, you know? Single-pointed concentration. And in itself, it's an incredible technique. It brings so much unbelievable benefit. The results of it are pretty amazing. It's not the purpose of it. The reason from the Buddhist point of view you get concentration is that you've accessed this kind of laser-like, subtle level of your own consciousness, which of course sounds abstract for us because we have no equivalent, where your mind is super capable, super clear, super subtle, so it can really do the job in the second mode of meditation, where you do the unpacking and unraveling of all the chaos to make sense of it all and to get rid of all the misconceptions. That's the only way to say it. So the real point of it all is to do the second job, and I've been talking about that in a general day-to-day sense of dealing with your mind in daily life. But when you've got this level of meditation, level of concentration, you can do it at a much subtler, more sophisticated, more powerful level. And again, that sounds cosmic to us. But let's look at concentration meditation. Let's first say what it's not. Our problem is because we wait till the wheels fall off, we then think, oh my God, I should meditate. So we think of it as an alternative to a pill. Well, it's not that. Second, we think of meditation as we've got to make all the thoughts go away. And why we want that to happen is because we wait till the emotion is so bad, we can't bear the pain. And we think, like I said, it's a way to make all the thoughts go away, like as if you've taken a pill. That's kind of frantic and desperate and ridiculous and isn't the point anyway. Third, it is not a relaxation technique. You know, yoga has brilliant relaxation techniques. We need relaxing, we're all berserk, but this is not a relaxation technique. It's in fact a really rigorous skill that demands a lot of discipline and a lot of effort. So it's really, in a sense, technically a really simple idea. We have so many weird ideas about it, we just can't hear, you know. So what it is, you know, when you've started, it's called practice. It's training. You're training your mind to stay on one thing. That's it. I mean, it's kind of like, sounds a bit boring. It's not religious in its nature. It's not spiritual. Hear this point, please. In its nature, it is not a spiritual activity. Anyone can concentrate on something, you know. People often call it mindfulness. Well, mindfulness actually is one of the many parts of your mind in this third category of states of mind. We've got the neurotic, deluded ones, we have the valid, virtuous ones, and then we have this third lot, like I like to call the mechanics of our mind, like concentration, good memory, and good memory, which is really the capacity to not forget what you're doing moment by moment. That's the meaning of the word mindfulness in Buddhist psychology. But we put all these extra things onto it. So in its nature, it's not virtuous. As Lama Zopa says, thieves need mindfulness. So but there are all these misconceptions. As soon as you cross your legs and close your eyes, you think you're being holy. No, not at all. Virtuous means not being attached, not being angry, being kind, being compassionate. That's what virtue means. That's what spiritual means. lessening delusions and growing the goodness. So concentration is merely a skill, a technical skill that you use that enables you to do the job better because you've got focus. You know? It's a practical thing. But on its own, it's got extraordinary benefits. So this book of Lama Yeshe's is our teacher. He's passed away now. One of my jobs is to edit books, okay? So this book came out last September. And what is called this Mahamudra, which is this marvelous method using the two modes of meditation to realize what we talked about before. And the word they use, to realize the way things exist, to realize how things don't have an intrinsic, pointable, findable nature. The term they use, of course, as you might know from the literature, is, you realize emptiness. So this throws us completely, this word, and I won't go further at the moment on that. But we've been applying it already. But we'll maybe discuss that tomorrow. So here, though, it's this meditation technique using the two modes of meditation. It's actually a very powerful technique, and it's taught, in kind of it's kind of more advanced actually. Although on the face of it, it seems simple. But it's learning to realize, it's learning to identify exactly the nature of self. This meditation. So the first mode is simply concentration, but it's got a very specific object of concentration. And that is, the typical one that Buddha first taught, you use your breath. There it is, breathing in and out naturally, so it's easy to anchor your mind to that because it happens automatically. And before we finish today, we'll do a few minutes of that. I'll explain the technique. So this technique is exactly the same in Mahamudra, but the difference is you don't focus on the breath, but you focus on the mind itself, which is more difficult really. So what you start with is by focusing on the thought, whatever thought arises in your mind. And the way they describe the mind in Buddhism is said to be such a marvelous thing and has got so much marvelous potential, but it's a very powerful thing to learn to focus on, There's another meditation called Dzogchen, which is a bit sort of similar, So I just want to read you from Lama to some of the qualities, some of the marvelous benefits of getting single-pointed concentration. These aren't the goal of it, but they're like a byproduct, they're like a bonus, The point of getting concentration is so that you've got this subtle level of laser-like focus so that you can do the real work in the insight mode and be able to identify the nature of the self. It's actually quite sophisticated, and it's a marvelous technique. But there are, as Lama says, I'll tell you, this book is called Mahamudra. It's available. It came out in September. Lama Yeshe was my first main teacher. I met him in the 70s. Lama Zopa as well. They're both behind me. And he came out of Tibet in 1959, like all the Tibetans, and he was 25, and then in the early 70s, soon after, he started meeting his main students who were from the West. He first met all these hippies in Kathmandu, He came to Kathmandu looking for enlightenment and drugs. Why we thought they came together, don't ask me. Very bizarre, actually. But that's what happened in the late 60s. So he met Westerners in the late 60s, and then that were his main students. And then in the early 70s, he then, out of Bodhanath, near Kathmandu, now I'll do advertisements. I've got 2 postcards down there. I'll do now my commercial as well. I'll stuck in my commercial. So anyway, we've got a monastery, my teacher's monastery. I go there every year. Just out of Kathmandu, near Bodhanath, up on a hill. And there's a monastery there. It began being Lama Yeshe's monastery in 1971 or something, when he first had his first Western students. Anyway, we moved there in about 71 from Bodhanath, where the Tibetans all came after they escaped out of Tibet. And then these Westerners started coming, and that's how this organisation that I'm part of now, it's got about 180 centres or 170 centres around the world. I met in Australia in the mid-70s, a few years after that. And anyway, what do I say here? I forget, I've got scattered in my head as I was talking. Whatever, so Lama started, his main disciples were Western. He died when he was 49, in 1984. So this book, he taught this in Australia, this book, and I edited this, and here it is, Mahamudra. I'll read you a little bit about it. Get you excited. Try and get single-pointed concentration. Lama had this ability to kind of, Tibetans are very, they came out of Tibet, I tell you, their Buddhism there, the way they lived, their lifestyle was literally still medieval, pretty much. Which in one way that was a great advantage, because the teaching stayed very much intact, you know. But when you hear Tibetans teach traditionally, it's very, I mean, I first read my first course from Lama Zopa, his main disciple, my teacher now as well. And when I first heard it, I didn't have a clue what he was saying. It was this arcane, medieval kind of philosophical constructs. And I couldn't get a word he was talking about, you know. It was very fascinating. When Lama Yeshe would talk, he sort of was born a hippie, I think. He just somehow knew how to talk to hippie Westerners. It was very extraordinary. And there's amazing ability to speak in a very down-to-earth, practical way, you know. Anyway, let me read you from this. Give you some inspiration. So let's talk about the mind first. I mean, I've talked about the mind. Let's say some things that Lama says. So normally we meditate on the Buddha's image or on the breath or on other things. But in Mahamudra meditation, we concentrate on our own mind, our consciousness. So what is the mind? What are its characteristics? Well, from the Buddhist point of view, consciousness has no substantial or physical characteristics. There's no colour, no form. You could say it's like space. It has a clean, clear nature, clear light nature. Consciousness perceives reality. This is a very interesting point. We don't think like this. The way they talk is mind or consciousness perceives reality like a mirror does. It reflects. It's a very interesting concept, this. So if a mirror is not clear, it was dusty, let's say, you know, it can't reflect accurately, can it? So an unclear mind can't reflect accurately either. So this is a very good way of putting it. Our mind is the capacity for cognition. It's happening every millisecond. We're continuously cognizing something. And of course the main things we cognize are the outside world, the objects of our five senses. So it's fairly evident, this is how Buddha's talking. If you think of your mind like a mirror, and the mirror is polluted, the mirror is dirty. So let's say it's dirty with attachment. So obviously things will look delicious. If your mind's full of anger and aversion, the things will look ugly. This is really clear to us. We're doing this all the time. But the mistake we're making, which is what Buddha's saying, is we forget that our mind is distorted. We think it's the object. We believe what we see is true. So it's like if you see a body of water, the trees on the bank of the water are reflected accurately in the water, aren't they? But if the water's turbulent, the tree will look crooked. Well, we only see the reflection. We only ever see the reflection in our own mind. So we're seeing everything, another way of putting it, through the lenses of what is in here. It's so clear if you think of it this way. I mean, we've got these profound sayings in our own culture. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, it's a profound statement. It means if you like that person, you know, someone else sees an ugly person. It's so clear, but we don't join the dots. We don't really analyse this. Because we believe whatever our mind tells us. So we believe in the turbulent tree, we believe the tree's crooked. Because these delusions are so habitual, so primordial, that we don't actually see reality at all, Buddha says. And it's not meant to be cosmic, it's kind of logical. So the mind's like a mirror. So this is why the first step is, this first profound step we have to make is the wish to recognize that my mind has got misconceptions. So fundamentally there's two things, our consciousness, which is the subject, they always refer to that like that, and then the world of the sense objects, things, people, sounds, smells. Normally we are distracted by the objects of our senses, aren't we? Most of the time the arising of our superstitions, and this is one of the very valid in modern Buddhist psychology, superstitions are a really good word for these neurotic states of mind. I mean, you have superstitious if you believe something that isn't true. Well, that delicious cake that appears to me on the plate, to me, looks like the cake itself has deliciousness in it, as if somehow you put a spoonful of deliciousness into it when you made it. So it's vibrating deliciousness at me, isn't it? And then begging me to eat it. So I blame the cake. Well, the cake I'm seeing on that plate is not the cake on the plate. This is evident to us. And it's proof, because 5 pieces later, how does it look now? Repulsive. And you would vomit if you ate more. We know this. That's enough to realize there is no intrinsic nature, which is Buddha's point all the way. We're so used to this, we don't question it. So normally we're distracted by the objects of our senses. Most of the time, the arising of our superstitions, our dualistic conceptions, is linked to the sensory objects, including sentient beings. So according to Buddhism, our 5 senses have a bad reputation. They are the doorway to the superstitions, to the ego. They are set up to activate delusions. It's really true. The moment we open our sense perceptions to the world, the reflections come, and then we conceptualize, categorize, and then this is the killer, and then we believe what we see. It is clear. We don't question. So from the Buddhist point of view, all the circumstances of samsara and nirvana. Samsara is a term they used to refer to being caught up in the delusions, and nirvana is a term they refer to caught up when you quit the delusions. It's not some place like heaven. It's a state of mind. It's your mind. All the circumstances of samsara and nirvana are manifestations of our mind. This is a central understanding. All suffering, all happiness, liberation, the highest realizations, all manifest from our consciousness. So using our mind as the object of concentration is the unique characteristic of Mahamudra meditation that makes it such a powerful method for eliminating our dualistic thinking. However, contemplating our own consciousness does not bring the actual realization of Mahamudra, ultimate reality. This is a term they use from Sanskrit that's referring to the realization of the nature of self, the actual, to realize how the self we think is there isn't. How to realize the absence of that fantasy self. This is where they use the word emptiness. So don't get confused by that word. We'll go into more detail tomorrow. So basically then, okay, I'll say a bit more in a minute. So basically this concentration meditation, this technique, there's 2 main obstacles that prevent us from being able to stay single-pointed, focused. Even at an ordinary level, we can see. There's either the tendency of the mind to be, chatting away, excited, berserk, never stopping, or the tendency of your mind to space out. So we can see in our daily life we have these 2 extremes. When you're wide awake and wound up, your mind's super clear and you're thinking of a million things and you kind of manage to get things done. But you look what your mind's like when you can't go to sleep one night. We think we're going mad, don't we? The thoughts just never stop and we're so berserk. Well, the mind's always like that. It's just that we're so busy with the outside world, we don't pay attention. But there you are dark at night with your eyes closed, all you can hear is the raging of your crazy mind. That's how the mind is all the time. I mean, Buddha, as I said in Western psychology, they say there's 1,000 thoughts a second. Buddha agrees with this. Oh my goodness. So this is what we think is normal. This is the interesting point. We know from the second we wake up in the morning until the time we go to sleep, it's going on. There's a river of stuff underneath all the time. And as long as it's not too berserk, then we can live with it, don't we? We live with it. It's all there, though. And that's the point. The Buddha says there's nothing we've ever experienced, and he's talking about past lives as well, that goes astray. It's all there. Talk about unconscious. I mean, it leaves Jung for dead, And some of it comes to the surface, and we go crazy sometimes. Some of it comes to our dreams. Our dream is our subtle mind. So the Buddha's point is we can unravel and unpack and deconstruct and reconstruct to a level of utter brilliance this chaos. Whereas we think it's normal to have chaos. Not at all. So the 2 main obstacles when you sit down, and we'll finish the day with a 5-minute technique. How are we going? That's any minute now, 10 minutes. So I'll go to more of this tomorrow. I'm running out of time. So the 2 main obstacles in this meditation we're going to do, we'll use the breath, not the mind, it's very simple, is your mind is chatting away. So naturally, so what happens for chatting away, because you're closing your eyes and you're not doing something you've got to focus on, you're just going to be left with your thoughts. Then you attempt to focus on the breath. So this is going to be, I'm giving you the instructions of how to do it now. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit down. Well, we'll sit down. Sorry, he's already sitting. You've got to close your eyes because it helps, otherwise you get distracted. And you've got to try to make the effort to not allow the mind to be too berserk and not allow the mind to go to sleep. Because they're the 2 main obstacles. Space out, you even wander off to sleep, or you forgot what you're doing. That's no mindfulness. Your mind just off, you know, following every crazy thought. They're the two main tendencies. So these are deeply habitual, profoundly habitual. And the interesting part is, as soon as you sit still and close your eyes, I mean, it reminds us of sleep, and one of the commonest things is just wander off to sleep, you know. Well, the other one is to completely forget what you're doing and just go berserk. And you don't have to, we know we don't have to conjure thoughts. We don't have to think, oh, what do I think about now? It just comes pouring in, doesn't it? It's just there, you know. So this is powerful. So what we're trying to do, what we're trying to do is not relax. What we're trying to do is not make the thoughts go away. What we're trying to do is not have a vision. What we're trying to do is not kind of, you know, have some special experience. It's a heavy-duty, hard-earned training. You're training your mind to stay on one thing. So let's be more precise here. Your mind is the general term for all the bits and pieces in here. Like you'll say, I am holding a cake, you know? Well, let's be precise. What part of I, what my body is holding the cake? Well, be more precise. What kind of part of your body? Be more precise. My hand, and you can even get more precise. My middle finger, my pinky's doing this, my thumb is doing that. The bits and pieces of your hand each do their job. It's exactly the same with the mind. So this is where the mechanics of the mind come in, you know? You have, first one part of your mind is called attention, and that's there every millisecond. We're always paying attention to something, although it's completely scattered. There's another part of your mind called discrimination. There's another part of your mind called mindfulness, which is the ability to not forget what you're doing moment by moment. There's another part of your mind called alertness or vigilance, and they're all doing their bits, but we don't train them, so they're all very lazy. So this kind of concentration technique is where you learn to really work with these and develop these parts of your mind. So that anyway in your daily life, you can use these, bring these to bear in your ability to focus on what's going on in your mind, you know. Don't just be mindless. So the aim is, we're going to pay, the job is to pay attention. That's it. You're going to pay attention to one thing. That's the goal. And the thing we're going to pay attention to is actually is a sensation at your nostrils as you breathe in and out. So you notice when you breathe in, it's a bit different when you breathe out. So the general area here, that's the focal point. So the simple technique we're going to do, the simple job is we're going to pay attention to that sensation. Now reality is what will happen after the second breath, your thoughts will overwhelm you and you'll wander off. Or you'll start to space out. So what you've got to do is the mindfulness is the part that's going to kind of, that's the part that is the one that is staying on the, that is the not forgetting what you're doing. And the piece that does the real work is called alertness or vigilance, and Dalai Lama calls it like the policeman. So if you can imagine these different bits of your mind, you can't tell the difference, but we just imagine. The alertness is kind of watching that attention stays on track, and that mindfulness, that you're keeping your mind, you're keeping the, you know, you're keeping the thought of what you're doing without losing it. So naturally it'll wander off. So alertness, kind of like the policeman, brings it back to the breath. And you wander off again. You bring it back to the breath. You wander off again. And you might wander off the object 50 times a minute, and that's fine. Don't think, oh, I had a bad meditation. Well, excuse me, it's like learning to ride a bike. You climb on the bike on the left-hand side and you fall off on the right-hand side. Well, if you forgot what you were doing and started looking at the sky, that's very nice, but it's not the point, is it? You've got to get back on the bike, and you fall off again. You get back on the bike, and you fall off again. So you keep doing that, and guess what? Eventually you'll stay on the bike. Well, the same here. So it's not to have a vision, it's not to have a nice feeling, it's not to make the thoughts go away, none of that's the issue. It's a simple technique. You're training yourself to pay attention and to develop the powerful capacity to not forget what you're doing, which keeps your mind on the breath. So then when you can do that, you begin, and some days you might get it, some days you won't, but eventually you get it eventually, but don't hold your breath. But you become, the mind naturally begins to steady. Not always, it depends on the kind of person, it depends on the day. So the point is, this is the training. It's training your mind to go away from, to stop the tendency to have the mind out of control, and to go away from the tendency of the mind to space out. So you're always going between these two. So you develop the skill to keep the mind on the breath. So we did a whole meditation retreat with Lama Yeshe one time, and he made us do 5-minute sessions. And that's really powerful, because even 5 minutes is a long time, and we'll do 5 max. You'll see it's a long time. And if you can even a few times keep your mind on the breath for a couple of seconds, that's good. So often the biggest mistake people make, some people can sit down and feel very relaxed very easily, and they think that's meditation. Okay, not this, it is your meditation, your style, but it's not this meditation. This meditation demands incredible clarity, incredible effort, and the aim is to have the mind super clear, not spaced out. One of the easiest mistakes is to equate feeling nice with concentration. You can feel nice, and that's fine, but that's not the issue here. You might feel nice, it's a bonus. The aim is to develop this super clarity of the mind, and it's not that easy to get, I promise. So I have no expectations. But the other point is this, and this is a good sign. They even say it in the texts. When you start to learn to meditate, you actually think your mind is getting worse. But it's not. You're noticing it, that's all. Like when you go to the gym for the first time, you come back home with muscles you never knew you had. And you know it's a good sign. You know that pain is not a bad sign. It's the same with your mind. We don't pay attention. And so we know it's there, but here, because we're paying attention to the breath, you can't help but hear the crazy thoughts. And that is good. And why? Because that's what you've got to learn to deal with in your daily life. That's there all the time. We're trying to pay it. So in our daily life, the benefit of doing this a little bit every morning is that you learn the ability to step out of your head for 5 minutes and to focus on the breath very consciously. Then you can't help but hear your thoughts because suddenly you're aware. But you don't pay attention, you let them be there. You don't wish they weren't there, you don't wish they'd go away, you don't analyse them, you just observe, notice it out of the corner of your eye. And that's the point that you're learning in your daily life. You bring to bear that skill of focusing on your breath in your daily life. You use that same focus to now focus on the thoughts as they're happening. And that gets more and more deep, more and more subtle, and you do the more and more processing. And that means you don't live in denial of them, and you deal with them, you confront them, you work with them before they become unbearable, before they become painful, before you shout out the mouth, before you want to kill yourself. You know? Are we communicating? I'm sure we are. So let me just go through, just relax. Let me go through the main points about the body. All the great meditators over the centuries have found to be most conducive to developing concentration, okay? So mostly in chairs, so that's fine. The classical position is to have your legs in what they call full lotus position. For the more advanced practices, we need to be in that position for the subtle energies to be in nice alignment, but we're mostly not in that at the moment, we're in chairs. So if you can in these chairs, you're in very strange chairs. Are you comfortable in these chairs? You have to sort of sit up, don't you? Well, it's good, you have to sit up. Don't lean into the chair, okay? It's really good to hold yourself up. That's important, okay? So the first thing is, have your feet planted on the ground. And the next is, otherwise you'd be sitting cross-legged. We're not doing that. So have your feet on the ground, then very planted firmly, and you're holding yourself up. Because if you slump into the chair, the subtle energies get all kind of blocked, and then you can get very sleepy and sluggish. So it's really important you hold up your own body. Because the great meditators can stay in meditation for days on end, staying very stable, you know. So the next thing is your hands. I mean, there's a classic mudra, or gesture. You can do what you like. And you'd have your left underneath like this, and your right on top, and the thumbs forming a triangle like this, if you wish. Otherwise, here, as you wish. Doesn't matter. The next, and the crucial one is your back, okay? The back's not straight, but have it upright, not slumped. It's really important. But as soon as we put our back upright, we tense the muscles. So your back and your shoulders should be very upright, but not tense. So the feeling I have, it's a bit like your body's like, you know, think of your skeleton hanging on a hanger. It's completely straight or upright. And then all the soft bits, your flesh, your muscles, very relaxed, hanging on the bones. So have your body upright, but flop your muscles, but don't flop your body. Keep your muscles, keep your bones upright. Then flop your muscles, your abdomen, all your muscles, relax them, but upright. Good combination. Then your head is the main thing, okay? Your chin slightly tilted, your chin tucked in slightly, and your head slightly pointed down, slightly tilted forward, in other words. If your head's thrust backwards, again your mind gets agitated. Slightly tilted forward. Your jaw relaxed, okay? Now, oddly, your tip of your tongue resting behind your top teeth. The yogis have found that this prevents you from dribbling and having to swallow spit all the time. It's very practical. The tip of the tongue behind the top teeth. Lips slightly apart. Breathing through your nose. Now your eyes. The great yogis also say best because they meditate day and night. So if you're meditating during the day, it's best to have your eyes open so the light comes in, so it keeps your mind sharp. But most of us get distracted as we have no concentration. So maybe have your eyes lightly closed, but crucially, your eyes beneath your eyelids should be looking down, as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. So this is the classic position. So settle into this. You know, you're not sitting cross-legged, so your legs, your back, your abdomen relaxed, shoulders square but relaxed, hands, chin tucked in, lips slightly apart, tip of the tongue behind the top teeth. Breathing through your nose, eyes looking down, as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. So settle into this and then forget about the body, because the body doesn't meditate. The mind meditates, okay? So now what we're going to do, just a few minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes maybe even. We're going to pay attention, that's it, we're going to pay attention to the sensation at our nostrils, the tip, as we breathe in and out. So first, breathe a few times, taking complete full breaths, not loud, and locate that sensation. Once you've located it, then we'll do the practice. So locate that sensation. Breathe right down to your abdomen. Not tense, not loud. Okay, so you've got the sensation. We're going to pay attention to that. And that's it. Think about it. That's it. We're going to pay attention. So you've got to make determination. You've got to say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to make as much effort as I can to pay attention to that breath. And the millisecond it wanders off, I'm going to bring it back to the breath. If you wander off 50 times, it doesn't matter. Far better than just spacing out. So it's very conscious, very intentional. And you can't help but notice your thoughts, so let them be there, like as if the television is on loud and all these crazy voices chatting, paying no attention. But don't wish they go away. That's not the point. That's not the point. We're trying to strengthen this capacity to pay attention to something without getting distracted. That's the point. So pay attention to the breath with determination. And the moment you wander off, bring your mind back to the breath. Bring your attention back to the breath. That's it. Bring your mind back to the breath. Just the breath. Keep the mind sharp. So relax now. That's 5 minutes. Maybe 4.5. So you can see it's a short time. But look, because you're making an effort to stay sharp and focused, it feels like a long time. So it's such a practical issue, you know. Don't think of it as religious, don't think of it as cosmic. It's learning to be aware of what the hell is going on in our own mind. This is the point, you know. So we can then learn to assess it, work with it, deal with it, argue with it, change it. That's it. At ever more subtle levels. That's the point. So I think we can go home now or something. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you. So, okay. A bit of homework if you come back tomorrow. When you go to sleep, when you hit the pillow, make a decision. Two decisions. One is, when you are dreaming, it's a really interesting point, this. We'll maybe discuss this kind of thing tomorrow. We'll do another kind of meditation tomorrow. When you are dreaming, make the strong intention, strong motivation, may I see my dreams as dreams. Not notice your dreams when you wake up and remember them, but when you're dreaming. There's something very powerful about this. That's your subtle consciousness. We'll go into this a bit more tomorrow. It's very fascinating. And becoming aware of our subtle consciousness. And someone can do this naturally. There must have been meditators in their past life. It's very powerful because your mind is more powerful at this subtle level. So it's an interesting exercise to do. You recall, but make a strong decision before you go to sleep. May I see my dreams as dreams. And then second, you should laugh at this now. If I wake up in the morning, we go, of course I wake up in the morning. I'm me. I'll be alive tomorrow. Not true. Tomorrow morning you wake up and you go around in a 50-kilometre radius, 10-kilometre radius, and you knock on doors. Excuse me, madam, did anybody die here last night who didn't expect to? You're going to get yeses, okay? Because we all have this assumption of permanence, like I said, you know. So this is a very powerful way to remind yourself you're impermanent. You wake up in the morning and bliss out that your petrol tank of morality hasn't run out yet. You're not dead yet. I'm not joking, that's the karmic view. So you're delighted. Wow, I'm still alive, I can't believe it, I'm amazed. May I make the most of today, come here, listen to this, stay and take some tools from it, so I can develop my amazing potential, so I can be a benefit to the world. Thinking like this. A little bit of homework. That's all. So we just think, I'll sing 2 little prayers, we call it dedication. So we're kind of motivated in the beginning, thinking we're going to listen to this stuff, to see if there's some useful tools we can take to develop our potential, so we can help others. So we're dedicating thinking, well, all this we've listened to, as many thoughts as have been, as many seeds we've planted, may we nourish these seeds from our moment forward with our effort to see our minds, work with it, take responsibility, blah, blah. So that no matter how long it takes, these seeds develop into our marvellous potential for our sake and, of course, for the sake of others. Thinking like that. Gewadinyu dudai lama sange drugyune drowa chikyang malupa dei sala pasho Jangchub semcho grimpoche make panam ke gyuchig ke panyampa me payang gong ne gong du bavasho. Now, I forgot my commercials. Sorry. There's 2 postcards down there. Since 2001, I've been leading a pilgrimage to the various places of India and Nepal related to the Buddha, and it raises $500 a head for our prison project. And it's just, I've done 16, I'm not bored yet, I tell you, it's a very amazing experience. People, I mean, it's just, we have a very wonderful time. We start in Kathmandu, we go to these different places, it's about 18 days or something, and it's just a very special experience to go to these places where the Buddha went, you know, it's very amazing. We stay in the best places, very nice. The other one is a trek we do up to the mountains to Lama Zopa's cave, where he's a Sherpa, a meditator. And that's about 3 years now. It's very shocking for me because I've never walked up a mountain in my life, ever. So I mean, now, the first time I walked up, now I take a helicopter, it's too much for me. But if you like trekking, we go to Kathmandu, 15 days. We go to fly to Lukla, walk 4 days, up to 4,500 metres to Lama Zopa's place. We have a 6-day retreat, and then we come down again. That's very nice. That's half the price. The first one's $5,000, that one's 2.5 or something, or 2, I forget. That raises money for Lama Zopa's cave, his monastery. And then the other commercial, I'm sorry, is about me. There's a CD there that I made with a friend a couple of years ago called Devotion. It's me singing. It's a choir of Robinas. And that's just raising money for my Body Teacher Trust. And then there's a movie that my nephew made years ago called Chasing Buddha. He travelled with me when I was in the States and came to prison with me and everything. So it's a very interesting film. And that's raising money for my Body Teacher Trust as well. So that's my advertisements. Bye.